right? Well, I mentioned this yesterday, and other people are saying the same thing. It's because that one entity, that one suppression force, the US government, is what's holding Bitcoin back right now. The 10,000 Bitcoin they transferred to Coinbase probably was not sold all at the same time. If they just had an open order to dump 10,000 immediately, that would cause a huge price disruption on the open market, right? So it does look like they sent it there and they've been just slowly selling it off, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. Again, no one really knows why they decided that it needed to sell about 10,000 Bitcoin, roughly what, $600 million worth of Bitcoin at this time. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. That's a drop in the bucket in terms of how much debt we have as a country, 35 trillion plus and counting. So what's 600 million, right? So there is something weird about this whole situation. I don't know if we're ever going to find out why this is being done now, right? One can only guess this is somehow politically driven, because there's no other reason why the Department of Justice needs to sell about $600 million of the Bitcoin, right? But I do think it is done on purpose to cause disruption, to cause FUD at this point in time. But you know what? The good thing is, again, those that want to sell and dump, let them. Because afterwards, that's one less FUD to worry about, right? Mt. Gox is nearly complete. Germany, I've already talked about, is done. Who else is going to be dumping? The US government? Okay, if they want to dump, let them dump. After they're done, they can't affect the market anymore. And as soon as they stop, basically, that's when the sell pressure is over, and that's when we can finally rise, right? It has happened so many times in the past. So let these guys do their thing for whatever reason, whatever motive they may have. This is also measuring the funding rates on Binance, so basically the people that are playing leverage right now, right? The funding rates have turned negative at this point. So this, you can interpret this one of two ways. Number one, there are a lot more shorters these days than people going long. And number two is, well, remember what happened in October of 2023 when Bitcoin was still stuck below a certain point. And then we started rising up quickly. In fact, that was around the time Bitcoin completely turned around and we broke above 30,000 and never looked back. We're looking at the same scenario right now. So pay attention. Pay attention. So basically, when the selling stops, all these indicators, and there are a lot of them. Here's another one. Active address sentiment indicator. Never even heard of this one before. AASI is also showing that Bitcoin is oversold. Should be rising. It looks like we're hitting that kind of like capitulation point that we have seen many times before, going all the way back to 2023 when Bitcoin was under $20,000. Same thing with the fear and greed index. We're in fear level right now, okay? Right at where we are. When was the last time we were this fearful as a market? Again, going all the way back to 2023 when we were below 20,000. Right? So, I mean, if you're paying attention to what's going on, right, you'll realize that, yeah, it does seem like the price action sucks. There is a lot of FUD. Someone's definitely selling. In this case, the Department of Justice But everything else is indicating that Bitcoin is strong as ever. Bitcoin is going to turn around and soon will turn around. And the adoption is still massive. So, for example, institutional adoption, right? We know institutions have come in, but it's really just the beginning. BlackRock and Fidelity and all those guys, just the beginning. MicroStrategy, just the beginning. Now we're starting to see banks, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, just the beginning. But when I say just the beginning, we're talking about tens of billions already. Just wait until it's hundreds of billions and trillions. That's when it's too late. That's when Bitcoin will no longer be cheap, right? Right now, if you're looking at Q1 to Q2, that's just this year. Despite the fact that Q2, we started going downwards in price. The ETFs, or the holders of ETFs, have grown tremendously. And we're just talking about this institutions, not just like normal average Joes buying ETFs. No, we're talking about some of the biggest and wealthiest companies on the planet loading up on ETFs or Bitcoin or even MicroStrategy. We're hearing a lot about MicroStrategy itself being a big Bitcoin play for central banks and for companies around the world. It's all because they want more exposure to Bitcoin. And BlackRock itself now, if you look at the cumulative, they have surpassed Grayscale for the first time ever in terms of their overall holdings. Okay, meaning if you add their Bitcoin holdings, their ETH holdings, you add it all together, it is now more than Grayscale. It took Grayscale how long to accumulate? But they've been dumping and dumping and dumping, and investors are dumping Grayscale at an alarming rate, and all of it is going to BlackRock. So BlackRock is now one of the big daddies of Bitcoin holders and even ETH holders, right? It's not really good. We don't want these guys to be loading up so much, but hey, the cat's out of the bag. Larry Fink and others now realize Bitcoin is the new gold, so to speak, right? And we need to acquire as much of it as we can while things are still cheap, right? Honestly, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And I've shown this many, many, many times. Even with the outflows from many of the other funds, okay, you never see outflow from BlackRock. It's just really that simple. Even yesterday, they just had a zero, but no outflows. Just no outflows whatsoever. When others are selling hundreds of millions, none is being sold from BlackRock at this point.